anytime I'm feeling like just a little disoriented or I don't know, like upset, I might go to YNAB and reconcile again.
Oh man, I feel that. There've been seriously, I have stress reconciled.
yeah.
We're like, oh man, my life feels out of control. Let me count up the cash in my wallet really quick and just try to regain some of this.
How you make it, how you wanna make it, how you make it.
You are not alone.
No, you are not. Friends, welcome back to another episode. Today we are talking about our favorite things to do in YNAB in 2026.
I love it.
Now, Ben, we did a take on this way back in the day. I think it was
4.5 years ago. I looked it up today. So it was like July 2021 or something like that.
Yeah.
It was, let me tell you, we didn't have as fancy cameras back then. It wasn't as nice.
No, or the fancy mics. And we weren't nearly as polished or comfortable
because we're so polished
as we are now. Yeah, I was like, how do I explain just that small growth that we've had in the years? But yeah, it was painful to go back and watch some of that episode. Not you, of course, but just listening to myself, I was like, come on, Ernie, what's going on here? But it was fun too.
Yeah. So we thought we'd bring it back again. That's right, guys. We are out of ideas. No, we thought this would be a good one just to bring around again. What are our favorite things to do in YNAB? Like, what are some features? What are some processes that we just really like to do? And we came up with some different ones. But I think we should mention the ones we talked about before we jump into new ones. What do you think?
Yeah, let's do it. And I was also going to say another reason we did this episode is because it is so nerdy, right? If you were to jam a microphone in any budget nerd's face and be like, give me your top 3 things to do in YNAB, like you could have them there for an hour talking through things.
Totally.
So I think this is just a fun topic to revisit, and it'll be fun to hear from people in the comments and through email about what their favorite things are to do.
Yeah. I feel like there's like, before we go on, I feel like there's like 3 types of Budget Nerds episodes. I feel like there's like kind of like psychology of money, like the way we think about money. And then there's like an episode that's like categories where we like interview someone or we talk about our own categories. And then there's like the really like nerdy software in the weeds stuff. And this is one of those.
Yeah.
So.
Hey, that's a good way to kind of categorize our types of videos. That makes sense. I like it.
Yeah, I think so. So yeah, let's talk about some of the ones let's talk about yours, Ernie, that you did back in 2021. What was your favorite things?
Okay, we'll start off with the bubble bath, the end of the month YNAB rollover.
Yes.
And I still do this. It's just not nearly as intense. And I would even say it's no longer one of my favorite things because I don't spend a lot of time in YNAB during that rollover. A lot of it is in my retirement spreadsheet. And honestly, there are some months where I'm like a little annoyed. Like
you're like, I don't want to have to do this.
I got to pull these numbers again.
Okay. Does that mean you've gotten less nerdy over the years, maybe? Or maybe just in this one area?
Oh, I don't know what it means. Maybe because I've been doing this manually month after month, year after year, I'm realizing I think there's a better way to bring in this data.
Okay.
I don't know.
Some APIs, something's other acronyms.
I don't know, but I'm too tired to figure out what the next iteration is. So I just leave it as is.
We'll have a whole episode about when you figure it out.
Yeah. But I still do that and spend a little bit of time in YNAB, primarily reconciling, updating my retirement accounts, looking into next month a little bit. But yeah, like I said, most of the time is spent in that spreadsheet.
Oh, and this is interesting because I feel like, one of mine that we're going to talk about is a lot about the monthly rollover. So maybe I've become more into the monthly routine thing than you have even. So
yeah. Okay.
All right.
We'll find out. Well, number 2 back in 2021 was staring at available amounts. This was being super nerdy of, hey, I'm bored on a Friday night. Let's pop open YNAB and just look to see what I have available. That's still kind of fun, but I don't do that as much. Maybe I've evolved and found some hobbies. And then my third and final one was seeing available dollars after saving for something. And I talked about the experience of buying my Ego mower, where I diligently saved for that for a really long time. And then when I went to buy it at the big box store, it just felt really good to be able to check YNAB and see that money in the category waiting there and ready to go. It was like a pat on the back. Good job, Ernie. You did this.
Yeah, I like that. I felt that way with the van when we bought that, because it just, I don't know, it's kind of amazing. Like, just looking at it and be like, man, if I really put my mind to it, like I could save a lot of money really quickly if I really want to. So it's kind of neat to see those numbers go up. Okay, so for mine, my first one was moving money. So just moving money between categories. I still think this is one of the slickest things in YNAB that you can do, is just like they make it super easy to just move money between categories. And it's really important. It's a big part of it. And I think it's cool that I feel like it's emphasized in the software because it's such a killer feature, you know?
I didn't re-listen to when you were talking through your episodes. Were you talking about the mechanics of moving money, or was it just...
I didn't re-listen to all of it either. I just kind of skimmed it. I think I was talking about both. Like, I think I was talking about the mechanics of it. Just the doing of it is really cool.
Sure.
But I think also just the concepts, you know, that you can change your mind, and you should, and it's smart to do that. So I like that. Matching transactions, which I still love, and I don't think it's like manually matching. I think what I was going for there was trying to get it to where all the accounts, when it imports it all, I get that little link icon on everything, you know. I still feel like if I can get a day where they're all linked when they import, that's a good day. You know what I mean?
Yep. So today, we always record on Tuesdays, and my Costco card, all the weekend transactions clear on Tuesday morning. Mm-hmm. So it's really fun to open up, because I do a lot of errand spending on the Costco card. And this morning I opened up, there was like 8 or 10 transactions that all had that chain link.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I could approve all, get this done with, but I went one by one, just matched, or, you know, approve those matches. That was fun.
That's cool. And the last one from 2021 was checking YNAB before spending, which is, just another important concept with YNAB. And I feel like with the way that we manage money, with the way that we decide ahead of time how we're going to spend our money, it's possible to do that, you know. Because of the way we do this, I feel like it's a little bit of a unique way of handling money that we do in YNAB, where we actually assign the real dollars that we actually have in the bank. So it's more meaningful, I think, than back in the day when I used Mint, where I would like look at these spending limits and like that's helpful, but when I look at those available amounts, I know it's real money that's actually in the bank, right? It really means something, and that's, I don't know, I still can't get over it. So yeah, I still like that too. That was pretty good back in 2021.
Yeah.
I like that.
Well, if you want to listen to the full episode, friends, I'll link it here. It'll be in the upper right-hand corner.
Mm-hmm. There you go. All right. Well, I think we should do what we did in that episode. We should go back and forth.
All right.
Do you want to start with your first favorite thing in YNAB right now?
Yeah, I will start. My number one, and these aren't in any particular order,
sure.
But first one I'm talking about, cost to be me.
There you go.
I have really been digging this cost to be me feature. So for those of you that don't know, in YNAB, the way we plan is by creating targets.
Mm-hmm.
Targets tell a category, here's how much money I eventually want to assign. And then cost to be me adds up all of those targets and tells you, here's how much you need to fund the entire month. And then you can compare that total to your expected income and get this reality check on your plan. And there was a season there where, you know, I didn't really put a whole lot of thought into the total of my target amounts. And there was even a short season where that total exceeded my expected income.
Right.
Because my priorities change month to month. Some months I'd fund this category, and other months I'd fund a different category. But now I've got my targets really, really dialed in, and I'm having a lot of fun with it.
That's interesting. Is it like dialed in? Is it like matching your income?
It's not to the penny. I mean, I've got like a $100 buffer there.
This is fascinating, Ernie. I feel like we have gone opposite directions on this because I've gotten away from matching it perfectly.
Yeah.
And you're like getting closer. That's really interesting. Okay.
And what's been surprising is just how often my plan changes. I always tell new YNABers this in workshops, like, hey, do not try to get that perfect set of categories because you're never going to get there. And as soon as you do get there or think you're there, something's going to change. And then, saying that enough and then realizing in my own life, boy, I've been YNABing for 13 years now. You would think I would be pretty dialed in, but just life happens regularly. My categories, my targets are constantly shifting because my priorities are shifting. My circumstances are shifting. So that's been interesting to see. And it's a fun process of, okay, I'm doing more of this. Now, where am I going to cut back? What other areas do we need less of in this plan? So it's just, I don't know. I've enjoyed the reprioritization process of Cost to Be Me.
I love that. It's interesting. I think right now, because of where I'm at, I think of it as more of like a really nice feature when you're just getting started, which I think is mostly what it's about. Like when you first set up those targets for the first time, you need that gut check. And before, I feel like you had to do it in a separate spreadsheet because YNAB didn't tally all those targets, right? And there was no place to enter in your expected income either. So there's not really a way to compare them, but now you do. But I don't use it a whole lot right now, but I think it's because I've gone the opposite direction of you, Ernie, right? I talked about this in my categories episode and talked about it a lot where, after childcare costs went down when Gil went to school and we had a couple raises, my targets are now pretty well below my income. And then the margin there, the difference between them, we just decide what to do with it every month. And it usually goes towards savings goals. And I really like that it's been a little more loosey-goosey. Like I can just kind of raise targets or lower targets a little without having to like freak out about, making it all balance. But I am feeling a little apprehensive about it because I do want to protect that margin. And I feel like, you're really just going to raise targets. You're not going to lower them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So So now you mentioned it. I have been thinking that because we have been raising some targets a few times recently. I think just with cost of living going up and it's not really been anything super crazy, but I feel like we're pretty quick to raise things. And that's been really good because for a long time, we really need to raise certain targets and are really resistant because it would mean reducing a target somewhere else because my cost to me just matched my expected income totally. So it's been nice to be a little more loose with it and be able to just kind of experiment and change things. But I also have that in the back of my mind, like, well, if you keep doing this, you're going to keep eating into that margin and eventually you're not going to be happy with it. So I'm starting to feel that a little bit. So maybe I could look at cost to me and help me out.
Yeah, I feel the other end of that because anytime we make a change, streaming, for example, it feels like we're always picking up a new service, dropping another one. And then instantly I go into YNAB. I up the target and then, I got to take from somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And so like, I'm in that stage where I enjoy that. It's fun kind of keeping up with it. It's nerdy, but I'm sure there's going to come a point where I'm like, okay, I'm sick of keeping this so tight and I back off and then I just swing the other way.
Yeah. But it is an interesting thing, like with the targets, like there's a element of you can, if you want to be really tight, you can. And if you want to increase one, it means you've got to reduce it somewhere else. But then you could also keep it a little more loose. Or you could even do what you do, where the targets might even exceed your income for a while and you don't fund every target every month.
Yep.
Like I think it's important for people to hear like there's not like a prescription on how the only prescription is that you should give every dollar a job, right? That's the only thing that we're hard on. The targets don't have to match the income, but it's so nice to have that gut check. And I don't have to make a stinking separate spreadsheet anymore to tally up those targets. We got it right there. So
that's the best. Yeah, you got to do what works for you. And you got to do what keeps you engaged. I think that's another piece where I change my mind so often because I just kind of grow old of the old way of doing things. So I need to try something new, and that just kind of reinvigorates my obsession with YNAB.
I love that. All right, so that's cost to be me. Okay, this one that I have, I'm surprised I didn't talk about it back in 2021 because this has been a long-standing love. Maybe I thought it was too nerdy, but reconciling your accounts, still one of my most favorite things to do in YNAB. probably always will be.
You've been talking about this since
it.
day one, I think.
I just like the process. So for me, what I do, I don't have credit cards. I just have one checking account where I do, I think 90% of my spending. I might spend out of like with cash in a different account, or I might spend like for like HSA or something like that. But almost all my spending is one account. So I just reconcile that account every day, and it just feels like I usually do it at the beginning of the day, and it just feels like I've sorted things out and kind of gotten started for the day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a very satisfying process for me because I do it every day, every work day. It's really easy and quick, and it just feels like I've kind of sorted things out.
Now, walk me through your process, because for me, I have linked accounts. I think you do too. I just hit that reconcile button.
Yeah.
And do it the easy way.
I'm still looking up the bank balance. Like actually going and logging into the bank, which I feel like it's being chipped away at. Like I feel like there's a point where YNAB has all that information, but like I don't know, maybe I don't quite trust it yet. I'm like, well, and I think part of it too for me, something about the way the quirkiness of the timing of the import. I'm actually like ahead of the import. Like I think like for some, maybe my bank imports like once a day and it happens like in the afternoon, but I reconcile in the morning. So when I look up the bank,
sure,
there's a bunch of transactions that are marked cleared in the bank that are still pending in YNAB. So I'm actually like a little bit ahead of the importer.
Okay.
Just because of how the timing works, which feels kind of silly to say, but it's just how it works out. So I think that might be one reason why. If the timing was slightly different, I might not feel the need to look at the bank, but I always do. And I also like to enter pending transactions too. So, I reconcile on the cleared balance.
Yep.
But I like to enter pending transactions as well. So long as I know the amount's going to be the same, I'll just enter it. But I won't mark it cleared in YNAB until it actually imports, and then it clears it itself. So yeah, so my process is I open YNAB and I open my bank. I got and I realized that Chrome, this is on Mac, you have you can turn any website into an app basically. Like it's opening, you know what I'm talking about?
Yep, totally.
I don't know what it is, but it's really nice. I have them in my dock. I have my bank website and YNAB in my dock, and it just kind of promotes them as like apps, even though it's still opening a Chrome browser, right? A Chrome window.
Yep.
But I don't know. It's something about it. I click it and it opens to the right spot, and I click it and it opens to the right spot. I'm on my computer, and I approve all the transactions that have imported. And most of the time, most of them are already entered, so they link up. That's very satisfying. That's a big part of it for me. It's like, how many of these transactions can I get the little matchy link icon next to, right? And then in my bank, it doesn't show a clear balance, so I have to look at the running balance for the latest cleared transaction, and that is my cleared balance.
Oh my goodness, that's kind of annoying.
I know it doesn't show me. It doesn't show you the clear balance. But so yeah, and for a long time we wouldn't show you a running balance on mobile, so I had to use the web app. Anyways, it's a silly thing.
It sorts them, and the pending, I'm guessing, are always at top, so it's never difficult to get to the cleared.
No, it's okay. Not. The cleared is right below the pending, and I see that running balance. That's the amount, and I'll hit reconcile YNAB, and sometimes it's right. But most of the time, it's off. Just not because YNAB made a mistake, but just the cleared transactions haven't imported yet. It's just like a timing thing. Like it will later this afternoon, but because I happen to do it this in the morning, I usually say no, it's not that amount, and I enter in the cleared balance, and then I just go through and I clear anything that I just look through it and see anything that's cleared in the bank that's not cleared in YNAB. Or anything that's cleared in the bank and not entered in YNAB, enter those or clear them until you get that satisfying moment where it matches, and then you hit finish reconciliation. And then when I hit finish reconciliation, all the reconciled transactions just go away. I have that little filter on that just files them away, so I don't even see them on the screen. And then I compare the pending transactions and see if there's any that are missing, and I enter those. And then that's it. And I'm done. And then I usually go back to the plan to see if there's any overspending that was caused as a result of entering transactions or anything like that. So it's just like a touch point at the beginning of the day for me. It just feels like, I just like it. And then anytime I'm like, I notice this, like anytime I'm feeling like just a little disoriented or I don't know, like upset, I might go to YNAB and reconcile again. Or maybe I'll pull out my house cash box and like reconcile the house cash account. That's really fun because I have a spreadsheet for that and I count out the bills and I put them in the little spreadsheet and it gives me the total and then I compare that to YNAB and reconcile it. So yeah, it's just like a way, like if you're ever feeling like the world's a little scattered, my brain's a little scattered, I'm just going to reconcile some accounts in YNAB and everything's going to feel right again.
Oh man, I feel that. There've been, seriously, I have stress reconciled.
Yeah.
We're like, oh man, my life feels out of control. Let me count up the cash in my wallet really quick and just try to regain some of this.
Yeah, tell us if you relate, guys. Have you ever stress reconciled? That's the term right there, stress reconciled. And hopefully reconciling is a very sweet and fun process for you. If you do it every day, it can be that. I think if you do it once a week or once every 2 weeks, it can be a little more, maybe cause some stress because you just have more to do. But then you have the bigger payoff when you finish, because there's more to deal with. So there's something to that too. But I think it's just, if it's as a daily practice or whenever you're feeling like you just need to sort something in your life out. You need something easy to sort out. Like when life's complicated and full of emotions and people are complex and sometimes problems are unsolvable. You can always go to YNAB. It's just math. You're just doing some math and you can always solve the problem. Right?
Seriously. Wow. Only in the Budget Nerds community.
It's emotional. It's good.
I love that. So when you start your day, your accounts are ready to go. They are up to date to practically the minute with your bank.
Yeah. I mean, really just the one account, the main checking account. And then the others I do from time to time. My investment accounts, I do whenever I feel like it. Every 2 months, every 6 months. I don't know. It's completely random. But yeah.
Yeah, so for me, I reconcile just using the linked accounts feature. Mm-hmm. So when I hit that reconcile button, YNAB is comparing the cleared balance in YNAB to the last cleared balance that it pulled when it's synced with the bank. So that means sometimes I'm not up to date to the minute, but you know what? It's always within 24 hours.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. Sure, there might be a transaction that's new that's hanging out there. But I don't know.
It does not need to be up to the minute, guys. It's just for my own satisfaction that I do that. So,
but I have noticed, and boy, I hope this doesn't mean I have to turn in my budget nerd card.
Yeah.
But I'm just reconciling as like why do I have to hit this button again?
Interesting. Okay.
It's like if I hit the button, I want it to be for all my accounts.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't want to have to go through each individual and reconcile.
That would be cool.
Because, I've got 3 cash accounts, 4 credit card accounts.
Right.
And so, one button, tell me they're all good to go. And then I can move on with my day. I think that'd be a lot more satisfying than individually.
Yeah. That's interesting. I wonder if there could be a process where you it's like, oh, hey, these are all right because of the import, right? And then it's like, okay, these need your attention. And it would be like all like one process. That's kind of cool.
And maybe. I think the idea has been floated out there of like, why do we even have to push a button? Like, why can't YNAB just automatically reconcile? But I don't know. Like,
I struggle with that.
I know. Sure, it would be nice, but I don't know. It's still nice to like do something really simple that doesn't take a lot of time and just to remind me, give me that peace of mind and like, okay, we're good to go.
Yeah, because like it makes sense. It's like, well, if you're importing anyway and it can import the balance, like why shouldn't YNAB just like, maybe like YNAB could just tell you like, oh, hey, something's off and now you need to deal with it, right?
Yeah.
But and like I think we're headed that way. Like it's already like we past couple of years we've incorporated the imported balance into the reconciling process in a really clever way. And so like that's already starting to happen, but like I don't know, I still want to go to my bank and check it. I think it's just such a ritual for me. I don't know if I'll ever get away from it. You know what I mean? But and then there's like even other things, like if we got to a place where imports were more or less like more instant than they are, you know.
Sure.
At that point it's like it's going to be entered and cleared before like I even have a chance to put it in myself, you know? So like there's, I think like the Apple Card right now, it's almost instant, right? So like that's an example, right? And so like I feel like technology is moving along to where like it's already killed the checkbook, right?
Yep.
Is it going to kill this reconciliation process? I don't know. For me, it's still such an emotionally satisfying thing. I want to do it. I don't know if I'll ever let technology take it over completely. So.
Yeah, I get that. And I don't want to go through every single account, but I also don't want to lose that manual process or that, push that button process completely altogether. So like,
I hope we'll always have the option to do a little manual thing, just because I like the ritual of it almost.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. It's so weird that it's like such an emotional thing. You know what I mean? It's like numbers and stuff, but it's just, it just makes me feel, it's just a touchstone. Makes me feel good.
All right, we are taking a lot more time to dig through these.
Sorry. I didn't think I would talk about my feelings around reconciling quite so much.
I love this because the last episode, or the last time we did this topic, it was like probably 20, 25 minutes. We just boom, boom, boom. But we're so much nerdier now.
We definitely get in the details now. Nobody seems to be complaining about it, so... All right.
Okay, my second favorite thing to do in YNAB 2026, assigning into future months.
Yeah, this is sort of new for you, right?
It is. Yeah, because I'm a month ahead.
Mm-hmm.
And for the longest time, I used a holding category. So that holding category was in the current month, and I would just assign all those current month paychecks to that holding category. And then at the end of the month, I would release that money back to ready to assign. And then in that future month, either the day before or actually on the 1st, fund that next month.
Mm-hmm.
But now we've built some features around assigning into the future.
Right.
And I wanted to tap into those. I wanted to give them a shot. And lo and behold, I love them. It's been really fun. I think one of the reasons I like it so much is it's so much more concrete. Instead of this paycheck is going to next month, it's this paycheck is going to next month's mortgage, next month's phone bill, next month's groceries.
Yeah.
And I really like that.
Depending on how many paychecks you get more times assigning, right? Instead of assigning it all at once too.
Yeah, because Christy and I are every other week, and we're alternating.
Okay, so you get 4 or 5, or
every
maybe even
single
6.
Friday. I get to assign money into next month.
That makes me think of, at one point I had 2 jobs. One was paid bi-monthly and one was paid bi-weekly, and then Caitlin had her job, which was also paid bi-monthly. So I had 6 paychecks, sometimes 7 paychecks every month for a while there. That was a fun time.
So yeah, I just love the concreteness of assigning into that future month. And then I also really like tracking my progress.
Yeah.
So we have this now we always had it in the mobile app, but we also have it in the web app now. Did we always have it in the mobile app or the web app?
No, I think that came after.
Okay.
Not long after, but a little bit after, yeah.
So it's just really fun to kind of see that graph or that pie chart fill up paycheck after paycheck. And I experimented with this because I've been, since we talked about the 3 stages of an emergency fund, I have really been toying with the idea of not keeping that money in a category, but instead assigning it to months ahead.
Okay.
Right? So like my first month ahead is for ease. And then after that first month ahead, everything past that is job loss money.
Yeah.
And I just like the idea of knowing and being able to see, again, the concreteness of like, here's how far that money could actually take us. It can take us 2.5 months into the future if we were both to lose our jobs today.
Yeah, it feels good to just like it's again, it's like kind of an emotional thing. Like you have this touchstone, you can look and say this. It's not like, oh, I'll be okay for 2 months. It's like my mortgage will be funded for 2 months.
But all that to say, I've been experimenting with putting that job loss fund in the future, and then when you look at your future months, that those little pie graphs, you have multiple months.
Yeah.
And boy, does that look cool.
It does look cool. Yeah, because I'm always 2 months ahead. So except for like a very short period, I'll always have at least 2 little pie charts in there. And I do like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And just the peace of mind. We are February 17th today, being able to see March funded and then April partially funded. I was like, I kind of like this. This feels really good. But I'm not pulling the trigger quite yet on transitioning that job loss fund to future months. So I undid that, rolled it all back. We'll see where that goes.
Yeah, that could be something that you just do. Like if you're feeling anxious, just take your job loss fund and fund it as far ahead as you can, and then roll it back. Because there are like software quirks where it gets weird if you go too far ahead, because you got to do, like we said, you got to click to the next month, and it gets weird. But
yeah, and the other thing I've run into is the little quirk is when there's like a reimbursement.
Yeah.
And it's a cash reimbursement for some reason. So you have a negative cash overspent category.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you get paid and you move to the next month, that amount is gone.
Right. Yeah, so it gets weird. Yeah, so there's some weird things. I feel like a lot of the problems with assigning ahead have been mitigated by, like, we have like that little warning if ready to assign in the future is off, is negative, and I've actually been surprised to see, since we had that feature with the little pie charts, how quickly the community the tone has shifted more toward being more favorable to just assigning the money straight into next month. And I'm sure we'll have tons of comments of people being like, I still do my next month category. And I'm not taking that away from you.
Yeah.
I think it's great. But I have seen a lot of people start to make that shift. And either way is fine with me. But I do think that there's a lot of power there in just signing it to specific expenses rather than waiting until the end of the month. So it's pretty cool.
What's your second one?
All right. Moving overfunded money out of categories with fill up to targets.
Ooh, that's a mouthful.
All right. That was a lot of words to describe, but I've talked about this before. I have my own little bubble bath ritual at the beginning of the month that I really like a lot. So I now have a lot of fill up to targets, which is basically like, I often call it a top up target. So it says, I want to have $50 in this category, and I want you to consider the money that rolled over from the previous month. So if $30 rolled over on that $50 target, I would only assign $20 to that target to top it up to $50, right? And for a long time, I didn't use this type of target. It was much requested by a lot of people, and that's why we added it back years ago now, and it's gone through a couple iterations. But I was old school, and I just did what we called it a monthly funding goal back in the day, right? That was the type of target where it's just, I told YNAB, I want to set aside $50 in this category no matter what. Don't do any fancy math. Just tell me to put $50 in here, right? But I've started to use this for a lot of categories, and it does make things a lot easier, especially when it's like a variable bill. Like I talk about like the electric bill. I do it this way where I just say, what's the maximum amount I think it could be? Which just, Ernie, I just got my electric bill today, and it is blowing past that maximum amount that I set that target.
Oh man,
it's been very cold here. In the
I
East
hear
Coast.
you.
And electric rates went up. I don't know, man. It's a mess. But so that didn't work out so well. But anyway, normally it works great. And but the quirk of this though is YNAB doesn't know how much you're going to spend in the current month. So it always, when you're assigning directly to the next month, it always tells you to put in the full amount. Okay. So that's what I do. I put in the full amount. And then I have a process at the beginning of the month where I move money out of those categories that doesn't need to be there. They're overfunded, right? And there's two YNAB features that come into play here. There's the overfunded focus view. So if you have any overfunded categories, if you have more money in it than you need based on the target, you'll see a little overfunded focus view pop up. And at the beginning of the month, I hit that and I get a list of all the targets, all the categories that have too much money in them based on the amount that rolled over. And then I go through and I just hit the little reduce overfunded button in the auto assign option, right? This is very in the weeds. And it's really satisfying and really fun because I just go one by one, select the category, hit reduce overfunding, and it moves the money to ready to assign. And I will end up with sometimes like $300 that I over assigned. And it's silly because it's the same, it's my money either way, but I feel like I like found money. I think it's like a little psychological trick that I do to myself. It feels like I found $20 in the pocket of my jeans.
I was going to say, it's like finding $20 in your winter jacket, but instead you're finding 15 of those $20 bills.
So it's just like a little thing I do at the beginning of the month, and it makes me feel good. And there is a psychological thing too, where I'm like, well, I know if I spend like for example, one of the fill up 2 targets is like Bessie incidentals. So I'm like, well, I know if I move money out of this category or if I buy Bessie some treats, then I'm not going to be able to do the reduce overfunded thing as much next month. It's like that's in the back of my mind, but I try not to make decisions based on that. I make decisions in the moment based on what I want to do. But there is a little bit of a thing there where it's like, okay, well, if I don't spend this money, I could use it for something else next month. And there's also like a patience thing because I'm like, well, if I'm not going to spend this money this month, I could just take it out now. But I like to wait to the beginning of the month and do the reduce overfunded thing. So it's all one big chunk instead of like lots of little chunks, Yeah. And then I make a bigger decision on how I want to use that money. So I really like this process. I hope it makes sense. Let me know in the comments if you don't understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, and I think I will share some screenshots or some videos of that process so people can actually see it if they want to.
Yeah, it's just a nice little thing. It's kind of a combination of multiple features that come together to like a really satisfying and fun process for me. So
yeah,
that's my Bubble Bath monthly rollover process.
And for those folks that just listen to the podcast, I wish you could see how animated Ben was, how his face lit up as he was explaining this process. So it truly is your bubble bath.
I really like it. It's really nice. Yeah,
I love
funny
that.
Because I didn't like plan on it. It's just like because I started using the fill up to feature, I kind of stumbled across this process that I really enjoy. So it's fun.
And I'm just imagining you explaining this to one of your friends or a family member.
Nobody understands.
Like maybe they could meet you halfway with the reconciling thing. And like, oh, okay, I kind of get this, Ben, but like what you're explaining here.
My older family members would understand reconciling because they actually balance a checkbook in their life at some point, right? But there's no way. This is why we do Budget Nerds. This is why everybody listens to Budget Nerds, because nobody else in your life understands what the heck we're talking about. You're not alone.
Truly, you are not alone.
That's why we say you're not alone at the beginning of every episode.
Okay, my third and final favorite thing to do in YNAB 2026 is look at available amounts.
Okay, same thing as number 2 and back in 2021.
Yeah, that was
or just a different vibe.
Staring, a different vibe. Like I'm bored. There's nothing to do. Let's pull out YNAB and lose some time in those available amounts.
Mm-hmm.
But this has been something since day one. I remember early on in YNAB when YNAB clicked, because it didn't click for me right away. In fact, I tried for like 2 weeks. It didn't make any sense. And I canceled my free trial. I'm like, done. Mm-hmm. And then my friend who was trying to get me to join was like, no, stick with it. Give it another shot. Once it clicks, you're going to love it.
Right.
And he was totally right. So that second time around, it did click. And I don't remember why it clicked and all the details around that. But I just remember looking at my available amounts and realizing, whoa, this is real money. Like, this isn't forecasted paychecks. It's not monopoly dollars, hypothetical money. It's real dollars that are tied back to my bank balance. And so it gave me this clarity around what my money's doing and also this confidence to spend it that I had never experienced before.
Yeah.
And here we are 13 years later. That does not get old. You know, you would think like, oh, using YNAB for that long, like you would basically get to a point where everything is on autopilot, where you're just in this groove with your money. But man, life is happening. I've got other things to worry about and think about, people, believe it or not.
Right.
And it still is super grounding for me to be able to look at that and be like, okay, this is what my money's doing. And then to give me that confidence to just be able to go and spend that money in those particular ways.
I love that. Yeah, it was so much of YNAB is just like being, I feel like it's been the theme for a lot of the things I'm talking about and you're talking about is like, it's just like a place you can touch, like a framework for making decisions that you can always kind of go back to when you need help, you need the information to make a decision. And you can just always go back to it for clarity anytime you need. Right. And yeah, that's just having those amounts available for you anytime. It's so helpful.
Yeah. And I'm glad you said decision making. I mean, ultimately, that's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
I mean, using those available amounts to guide those spending decisions, those saving priorities, those big purchases that are looming in the future. And that's why I also, the available amounts provide a ton of peace of mind.
Yeah.
We talk about money worry a lot around here at YNAB and how get YNAB, never worry about money again. But that doesn't mean worry's never going to creep in.
Yeah. Yeah.
It still pops up. The difference is, okay, I felt this worry. I don't have to let it control me. I don't have to let it linger.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can just, all right, I'm worried. I'm going to look at my plan. I'm going to figure out where I'm at. I'm going to make some changes if I need to. And the worry's gone. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Big breath. We've got this.
Yeah. You don't have to like that, because that's when it's pernicious. That's like, because I think there's a thing where if I'm worried, like that's a good thing almost. It's like a signal like, hey, something's wrong. It's like pain almost, like you got pain in your ankle. Like that's bad, but like your body's just telling you, hey, there's something wrong with my ankle. Right. And so like, if you have this worry, it's just saying like your brain's just saying, hey, there's something wrong. Like there's something we need to deal with. Right. The problem is when it becomes anxiety, when it becomes like, it's just, you don't even know what the source of it is. You don't know what the problem is. And you definitely don't know how to solve it. Right. And it's just like constantly eating at you. But with YNAB, you can always look at these available amounts. You can always make decisions based on them. You have this framework for making decisions that you can always go to and you can deal with the worry. So the worry is just a signal, hey, there's something wrong. I need to go deal with it. And you actually have a way of dealing with it. And that's the difference, right?
Yeah, I just experienced this a couple weeks ago where Christy and I were looking at some possible medical charges that were pretty big.
Mm-hmm.
And instantly I felt that worry just kind of starting in the pit of my stomach.
Yeah.
And I didn't go into YNAB because I knew the categories I was looking at, and I just kind of looked at them mentally in my head because I knew where I was at.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, if we go down this path, we're going to be okay.
Yeah.
Like we've got a plan, and it's like instantly that pit in my stomach went away. Right. And I haven't thought about it since, we had that initial conversation. And, since I just brought it up today. So like, if this was old Ernie, I would just every single day be worrying about, okay, if we go forward with this, how are we ever going to make it happen? What's this going to mean for future expenses, future savings, and blah, 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 and just like worry myself to death day in, day out.
Yeah. This is huge for me because I'm like, okay, like, forgive me for talking about the Enneagram, but I'm an Enneagram 6, right? Which is like commonly like the worrier, right? Like that's like the phrase. And it's like, I need like a contingency plan for anything that could go wrong, right? But I feel like because of YNAB, and not just because of YNAB itself, but because of the skills I've built up around YNAB, the decision-making skills, I don't feel like I need to have a specific plan for every single thing that could possibly go wrong in my life. Like, I have proven to myself over and over again, when things do go wrong, I will be able to make a plan, right? And because those little available amounts are always there, I can always know, if I ever need to, I can look at it and I can make decisions based on those numbers and make a plan for how to handle the money part of the crisis, right? And that's huge.
It is huge.
I don't think we really appreciate fully how just having that, even if you don't look at it every day, just having it, just knowing you can look at it, is super powerful.
Love it.
Okay, well, this is interesting because my third one is kind of related in a little bit of a way. I'm gonna attempt to relate it very clearly. Okay, so like there's two parts to YNABing. There's the available amounts, there's the categories, right? You got the plan, but you also have the accounts and you have all the transactions that you're entering, and one informs the other, right? The plan is only as accurate as your accounts and your transactions are. So that's why we enter these transactions and keep up with it, so that we know when we go to those available amounts, they're accurate and we can make decisions based on it, right? But there's another part of entering transactions that I think we on the team are really realizing is super valuable right now, which is having like a system of record, like a way of storing and keeping information outside of your head, right? And this makes me think of the getting things done book. I don't know if you ever read that. I read like the first chapter of it, and I got the idea.
I feel like I read it because so many people talk about it.
Yeah, exactly. Like what I always go back to with that book is, so if you don't know, this is like a productivity. This is like the mother of all productivity books. Like, it's like started like the productivity world, I think, right? And it's old and it's pretty outdated because a lot of it's like, yes, take these papers and file them into these paper like, that's not what we do anymore. We tag and we search, right? But the basic idea is you need to get information out of your head so you can have a mind like water. That's what the early chapters talk about. A mind like water. Like, you don't want to have to think about, you don't want to have to like remember things. So you have a storage system, you have a process where anything that is in your head that's bothering you, and this is specifically about to-do lists, like getting things done, right? You write it down in this place where you know you're going to look. So it has to have two things. You have to be able to capture the information, and that information has to be in a place where you know you are going to look regularly, right? And if you do that, you don't have to remember anything and you don't have to keep anything in your head. And then you can have a mind like water where you just live more freely because you're not constantly, I got to think about this bill. I got to think about, I got to be sure I mow the grass, and I got to, you just write it down and you can look at it when you need to look at it, right? YNAB is like that with these transactions. I can keep all this information out of my head, like taxes, what do I do about like keeping track of like my charitable giving for tax purposes later? I don't have to worry about that. It's all in YNAB, right? Little things like, how much money do I spend at this restaurant? If I want to like go to this restaurant, but I'm not sure how much it's going to cost, I can look back and see what that is, right? Or like, how much does it cost typically to go on this vacation to the Outer Banks? Or, I can find all this information. So I don't have to keep it in my head. I don't have to worry. And I can always look back and make decisions based on this historical data. And it's not even just like, I'm not even talking about like reports. I'm not talking about like averages and bar charts. I'm talking about really just searching, like going and searching for a transaction and finding the information I need, and having the little memo and all this information that I put into YNAB maybe years ago, I can always resurface whenever I need it, right? It's really powerful.
Yeah, and this is something that I've really bought into because we have been talking about this more internally on the YNAB team. And I'm like, because I've always made fresh starts. Mm-hmm. So I've always had the data. It's just been very disjointed.
Right.
I'd have to open certain plans, and then I'd have to try to remember, okay, was that vacation in 2023 or was it 2022? 2.
Right.
So now we're just going to keep it all in one plan. No more fresh starts for Ernie.
Yeah, yeah. And I think we're all moving that way. Like less like recommending fresh starts just for the just willy-nilly, you know. Like there's a good time and place for a fresh start, but
absolutely.
But I think we've heard from the community, like, I really want to keep it all in one plan more often. I'm like, yeah, I see the value in that because you can more quickly search things up, basically.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely. Seeing the value in that and just love being able to know I can tap at any point. If I have a question about past spending, boom, it's there. I mean, just the other day, my son and I, one of my boys and I were at Best Buy buying a phone. And he was like, oh man, I'm like, you should get the same phone you got last time. He's like, well, I don't know. And maybe I want to get this one. And we're trying to figure out how much he spent on his last phone to kind of give him a budget for what to spend on this phone.
That's a perfect example.
And I just brought up YNAB. I'm like, let's go back and look to see what you bought in September. And sure enough, it was the amount that I had in my mind, the lower amount. And I was able to show him like, okay, here we are. We're going to stick with that amount.
Yeah. And I feel like with the mobile app, like with the recent redesign we did, I think it was back in September, with the spending tab, I feel like I'm doing this more because that kind of like all accounts view is more close at hand. And also the search on mobile is so much better than it used to be. Like it's more like the web app where you can kind of filter with your searching and do all sorts of fancy stuff. I find on mobile, I'm searching stuff up a lot more often. And yeah, I think it's really powerful because it's just nice to have that information. You can have that mind like water because you don't have to worry about anything. You know, you can look up anything you need to. And this is why I think like memos are really important. Entering just like what you thought of some restaurant or like what you thought of some purchase. So like if you go back again, you have like a little review for yourself, you know. I think entering any information you can in that memo is really powerful. And there's other ways too. You got like flags. There's lots of ways to kind of tag transactions. And we got some more things coming along the line that I can't talk about, but this is something that we're thinking about a lot is like, how can we get more information into the transactions to help with this kind of system of record process?
I just did my taxes and combination of flags, memos, and transactions, I realized how accurate YNAB is. I have digital copies of a lot of my tax information that I keep, and those weren't nearly as accurate as YNAB was. Like YNAB was the final authority on some of this information that I filed for our taxes, and it brought a ton of peace of mind.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm like, when I'm doing my taxes, I'm like, is it okay that I use YNAB? Like, it doesn't feel like official enough, you know? Like, shouldn't I be looking at some horrible bank statement or something like that to look up this information? But like, I know it's accurate. So like, I look at that and it's easily searchable. Like I think a lot of it is the slickness of the search, really. So maybe I should say like the feature here is the transaction search. That's really what I like about it. And it's not even talking about aggregate information. It's talking about looking up something specific that you recorded years ago that can help you. So
you love this. How often do you find yourself doing this?
I mean, it's not like a regular cadence. It's just whenever I have any kind of question about my spending in the past, I can always look it up. So I mean, I don't know. I would at least once a week, it probably comes up, maybe more often. But it's also just knowing it's there. All this information is there over many years. And this is something that gets more and more valuable the more you use it, right? Like a silly example is I have poker stats on all my friends, right? Like I talked about this in my categories episode.
We know this.
I mean, like the fact that people like talk about it, I feel like people are like marveling at me. They're like, you have that information? I can like ask you. I'm like, yeah, I can make a little CSV export for you, right? And yeah, I can tell you how much you've won or lost playing poker at my house, right? And like I feel people are like, I feel like it blows people's minds that it's even possible to get that information.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it's something that we as YNABers take for granted that most people didn't even think is possible, right? That you have so much information at your fingertips, so much information that you don't need to keep in your head. And I think there's more we can do with this. I'm excited to see where we head. But
my goodness, how many times have we heard from the community something like, hey, I was talking to my financial advisor. I was talking to my accountant. They asked me this and that. And in an instant, I was able to provide them all that information. And they're like, whoa, I've never seen this from anyone before.
Yeah.
It's like that proud moment of like, yep, of course, I'm dialed in.
Yeah, and even stuff like it almost goes the other way. Like there's so much information like I couldn't tell you right now. Like they're like, if you ask me like what's my paycheck every 2 weeks, like I feel like a lot of people know the number down to the cent, because it's like because they're like waiting for it. But for me, like I can look it up. I can tell you what it is. You know what I mean? But like there's all this information that most people keep in their heads all the time that you don't have to keep in your head. And I think that's really powerful. I don't think we really fully understand how powerful that is, because there's you want to focus on the things that matter in life, not on these little things. So you just put it somewhere where you can look it up. That's really all there is to it. Put it somewhere you can look it up anytime, and that way you don't have to keep it in your head.
Man, I'm the same way. I mean, I think I just mentioned in a recent episode that I couldn't even tell you what our mortgage is every single month.
Yeah. Like,
I assign that amount and I record that transaction every month, year after year, and I still don't know because my brain knows you don't have to hold on to this.
Exactly.
YNAB's going to hold on to it.
It doesn't matter. It's not something that you need to know because you have a record of it. So there's something really, really powerful about that.
Love it.
All right. Those are
friends,
3 favorite things.
Yeah, your turn. Sound off in the comments. What are your favorite things to do in YNAB? Otherwise, send us an email, budgetnerds@ynab.com. But before we let you go, as always, we got to share a couple more YNAB wins.
Okay, I have one from Jenny Van Hart, who wrote in a comment on the How to Pay Off Debt episode back in the day. Jenny said, YNAB win, my husband now understands the benefits of paying off our debt, so we have the payment money freed up to spend however we like. Yes, I'm all about the cash flow, Ernie. I told him my goal is to have his graduate student loans paid off before his PhD is done, which we're cash flowing this time around. Thank you, YNAB. I think he's looking forward to the extra money, hoping it doesn't all end up on the boat. I'm never getting a boat, man. I feel like
no way.
Everybody just says all the money ends up there. So, but that's cool. I love that. Yeah, anytime you can find a way to get more cash flow into your life, and paying off debt's a huge part of that. It's a big deal.
My win comes from Tamara. Tamara emailed in probably about the same time that Jenny did, over a year ago. Hi, Ben and Ernie. For the second year in a row, Sam's Club has charged me twice for the annual subscription fee of $119.57. Once in March and another time in November. I'm pretty sure that I would not have caught it either year if I hadn't been tracking my expenses through YNAB. So that alone has saved me $239.14. I cannot explain why this keeps happening, but Sam's Club cannot seem to fix it. I wonder how many other people just pay it not knowing. Well, First off, Tamara, this would not happen at Costco. They would not charge you a double subscription fee.
Got it.
I'm joking and I'm not joking at the same time here.
They would never do that to you.
But seriously, I love that. It's that system of record.
Yeah.
It's being dialed into what is actually happening with our bank accounts, with our credit cards, and being able to catch those things that, hey, this isn't right, or that's fraud, something just out of the normal that we weren't a part of. So saving you money, maybe make that switch to Costco. Maybe there isn't one available, but I don't know. I love it.
I love it. All right. Well, if you have a YNAB win, let us know in the comments or email us at budgetnerds@ynab.com. And thanks for writing in, everybody.
And we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Happy YNABing.